Electoral Carnage and the dumbest bill in America. This is Mark Fisher with the Mark and the Millennials, and joining me today are Garrick Ross and Ryan the Squirrel Brady. How are you guys doing?
Doing fine.
Great. How are we doing, Mark?
It's great. So the podcast is called Electoral Carnage and the dumbest bill in America. So first of all, Electoral Carnage. We've had Electoral Carnage because Buttigieg, Steyer, Bloomberg, and Warren have all dropped out. And why have they dropped out? Let's hear from the Millennials. Why?
The great consolidation of 2020. Biden is basically the only path to a decent electoral chance that they think that they have from the Democratic establishment. You also can't give away the nomination to somebody who's not a Democrat, and so they all got out of the race, endorsed Biden.
Meaning that basically Sanders is not a Democrat.
Sanders is not a Democrat, and they believe that Sanders would do irreparable harm.
And who's
to the
left?
party.
Who's left in the race?
Joe Biden and Tulsi Gabbard.
And Sanders.
And Bernie Sanders,
And Bernie
of course,
Sanders.
right? So there are three people. So then there were three.
Yeah, Biden, I'm surprised Biden actually made it. He was going to be on the fence for a while, but then Super Tuesday, and he won the Carolinas races, and he just got more favor.
Won like 10 of 14 states.
It was just lacking. Everyone got destroyed.
But Sanders won California, right?
Yeah.
But it's in a tighter margin than they anticipated, basically making it a wash on the
And what's the
delegates.
RCP average, the Real Clear Politics average now?
Biden's
Moving
51,
forward?
and then Bernie's 35.
So
with a
Biden is plus
16
16.
Yep.
So next up is Michigan. So what's going to happen?
This should be a Biden
Yeah,
blowout.
it might be. It's a Rust Belt
And at
state.
that point, it's game over for Bernie.
Well, because Michigan also has a pretty large African-American community, and they tend to be trending towards Biden.
Yeah, as you've seen in the Carolinas. On top of that, though, with what you're going to see is most likely Biden's going to win the party nomination, and all the Bernie supporters are going to say something was against them. There was some kind of conspiracy theory, which, they do have valid points from 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
Even if Biden doesn't do as well as he should, the next state is Florida, where Bernie is just underwater after his Fidel Castro comments.
Oh, yeah,
and-
especially in Miami-Dade County, where all the Cubans are.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
And also a large African-American population in Tallahassee and Jacksonville.
Yes.
Yeah, without question. So get this, Elizabeth Warren drops out, as you guys just said, but she did so tearfully. It was so phony. And she said, the girls will have to wait 4 more years. Here she is. Here's the clip.
I will not be running for president in 2020, but I guarantee I will stay in the fight for the hardworking folks across this country who've gotten the short end of the stick over and over. That's been the fight of my life, and it will continue to be so.
Senator, what guidance would you give to your
I'm sorry?
supporters who don't know who to support now?
Well, let's take a deep breath and spend a little time on that. We don't
Time
have to
for
decide
healing.
that this minute.
And I wonder what your message would be to the women and girls who feel like we're left with 2 white men.
Planted
to
question.
decide between.
I know. One of the hardest parts of this is all those pinky promises and all those little girls who are going to have to wait 4 more years.
Oh, come on.
That's
Oh my
gonna be
gosh. I'm going to have to wait this is just like Hillary Clinton losing all over again.
Well,
I mean,
her
the
morning-
same thing. Everybody's crying. Well, actually, this time, just she's crying.
Well, her mourning period is very short-lived because she apparently appeared on SNL
And
this
she was
Saturday.
having a good time.
She was having a fun time with Kate McKinnon doing some, I think
I
they
missed
did
that.
a TikTok or something like that where they traded places and one was dancing in the background, one was being solemn-faced. It was kind of like, okay, but also she was a horrible candidate. Her ideas, she couldn't back up her ideas with facts, and on top of that, they were going to cost too much, and we couldn't sustain that.
They
saw
all,
through it.
every candidate thought that there was going to be this monumental progressive wing that was going to show out for the party, and it didn't show out, and so all the progressives got stuck vying for like 30% of the electorate.
And the progressive wing exactly is smaller than the main establishment, but you had all these progressive candidates. With that small chunk, you're dividing that even chunk into smaller pieces where eventually a mainstream moderate candidate, in a sense, may just totally take it over like we see with Biden right now.
And you can tell that she is politically expedient in that she hasn't endorsed, that's the word I'm looking for. She hasn't endorsed Bernie yet, which tells me that she is banking on a Biden presidency for her future career.
She refuses to endorse, she said.
Well-
she's like, it was very coy. Well, let's just see what happens. I need to think about it.
I think that's effectively an endorsement of Biden.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But
she's in the
also,
same lane
still
as Sanders.
politically toxic, though. If people are going to bring it up, because granted, if she endorses anybody or she becomes like a running mate with anybody, President Trump or whoever he's going to run with, mostly Pence, would just hit her with the Pocahontas comments.
Yeah.
It's true. But by the way, the podcast we said already is Electoral Carnage. So of course, first you heard Elizabeth Warren dropping out. Now we have an interview with Chris Wallace, and he's interviewing Joe Biden. And this is more Electoral Carnage. Even though Joe's still in the race, So Joe has a nice long interview with Chris. Apparently hasn't been interviewed for a long time on Fox News Sunday. Nonetheless, Joe apparently forgets Chris's name, and we have a clip on that, and here it is.
Mr. Vice President, thank you. Thanks for your time. Please come back in less than 13 years, sir.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right.
Was that like
It's
a mixture
Chris,
of
but
saying
anyway.
Chuck?
I just did Chris. No, I just did Chuck. I tell you
Yeah,
what,
Chuck
man,
Todd.
these are back to back. Anyway,
No, it's
I don't know how
okay.
you do it early in the morning too.
Safe
Thank you, Chris.
travels on the
Appreciate it.
campaign trail. Thank you, sir.
He must have thought he was on Meet the
Joe
Press.
needs a nap, man. Joe needs a nap. I mean,
my
that's the
God.
problem. I guess he didn't have a nap between his two interviews. So he,
Good old Uncle Joe.
Joe Biden's about to win the nomination, and I have no idea what he's done.
He's
He's
gonna
just
say,
kind
"I'm
of
running
showed
for
up
senator."
and put his name on the ballot. I saw a Babylon Bee article the other day, and they said and it was making fun of Biden, and it said he says, "I'm the only person who can defeat Ronald Reagan."
explain as a millennial what Babylon Bee is for
It's
the
a,
podcast.
it's a
listeners.
satire website where they come up with cringy, funny article names that are kind of still somewhat true,
Kind of like the Onion, but
not
more
exactly,
but not
conservative.
exactly true.
Yeah.
But can you imagine? I mean, no one's really called him out on this. Obviously, Chris Wallace made fun of him a little bit, saying, well, no, actually, it's Chris. And they talked about it for like another 15, 20 seconds. But can this guy actually get elected?
Well, are you going to say, is he fit for office? That's the question, because of all the missteps are pretty bad, and he's going to be, what, one of the oldest presidents we've ever had?
He'll be the oldest inaugurated president.
And he's what? He's almost 80s, right? Late 70s?
78 right now.
Would millennials vote for him? Will millennials vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump?
I intend not to vote for anybody. The president wants that down ballot.
Not sure I followed that squirrel. It was
I
just like
don't
a
know.
squirrel moment.
I
You said you don't vote for anybody? Is that what you said?
No, I don't. I'm not going to vote for president this round. I'm going to down ballot vote.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
I have
a
a little-
protest vote. Per
Oh, I
se.
did 4 years ago too.
You're not going to write anybody fun in?
John Kasich.
But you're a gun guy, so I'm just surprised you would vote for somebody who might be anti-Second Amendment.
John Kasich? Nah, he's all right.
No, well, he's not running. I'm talking about Joe Biden.
Oh, I wouldn't vote for Joe Biden. God, no.
So next up, more electoral carnage. Brian Williams flunks math. Brian Williams basically says that Bloomberg spent $500 million on his campaign.
Isn't this the guy that they that they fired from NBC because he was lying on air
He's
so
lied
much?
all the time.
We were under RPG fire.
Exactly.
There was looters during Katrina.
And he says in the United States that basically that would be $1 million per person in the U.S. So because Bloomberg spent $500 million, he could have just given everybody in the United States at least $1 million. You do the math. We have the clip. Here it is.
Tweeted recently that actually with the money he spent, he could have given every American $1 million.
I've got it. Let's put it up on
Yeah.
the screen. When I read it tonight on social media, it kind of all became clear. Bloomberg spent $500 million on ads. U.S. population 327 million. Don't tell us if you're ahead of us on the math. He could have given each American $1 million and have had lunch money left over. It's an incredible way of putting it.
It's an incredible way of putting it. It's true. It's disturbing.
Like, oh my God, it's actually $1.50 per person. When you spend $500 million and you have 326 million people, thereabouts, you're spending about $1.50 per person, as in $1.50.
I'm not good with math, but that's...
Yeah, we had that
they used
discussion
that for
before we
me.
started.
Yeah,
It was
did.
frightening.
I was like, what?
That's her PR degree at work there.
That's right, cybersecurity. The cybersecurity guy
I don't
can't
do
math.
algorithms. I do common sense.
But wouldn't you think that this would turn you off from watching a TV channel that can't really get some basic things correctly?
Yeah, a lot of TV shows do that now.
Wouldn't you think a regular news channel would fire Brian Williams just for being so incredibly stupid?
They might put out a PSA, say, sorry about the wrong math. To
Oh,
save
they never
face.
do that.
No, but then you get guys like Chris Matthews who makes one kind of weird synonym and he gets fired the next day.
Well, it's just the electoral carnage. I mean, Bloomberg drops
Well,
out.
Bloomberg didn't think that people were going to dig up all his dirty laundry, and he got destroyed in that debate.
Should
which was
never have gone to
great
the
TV.
debate.
That was great TV.
If he
He's
never
so
went to the
smug,
debate,
too.
I really think Super Tuesday we're talking about a different outcome.
True.
You think so?
I do. I genuinely do. I think Bloomberg was running in
was
this
getting steam.
this lane where people thought that Biden couldn't do it. And I think by going on the debate stage and showing that he himself couldn't do it, a lot of those people are like, all right, Biden's the guy.
Yeah, but now Bloomberg is out and Biden's all alone. He's got the nomination, I think.
Oh,
I mean,
easily.
unless something happens.
In hand,
like-
unless he doesn't make it.
Because obviously Elizabeth Warren isn't going to endorse Sanders, and she's not going to do it because that'll actually help Sanders over the finish line.
I don't think that her base is entirely Sanders is her number two. I think if you got to look at the demographics that she has, it's all white, college educated, and middle-aged
he could have promised that
people.
he was going to choose her as his VP. and that may have helped. I mean, potentially. Maybe.
They would not be a good
Not,
working team.
No. I can't see her taking second place to him.
Or in staying in the role of vice president and not going out of the bounds, because there's that dynamic you still have to be respectful for. There's a difference between being president and vice president.
Mm-hmm.
So meanwhile, Senator Chuck Schumer of New York threatens the Supreme Court justices. He says, you will pay the price. Why did he say that? Because the Supreme Court justices are getting ready to take up a bunch of abortion cases. And so what does he do? He goes out there, Chuck Schumer does, and literally says, in my opinion, it was a threat. Something that you're never supposed to do. By the way, you can't threaten public officials. You can't threaten anybody. But this is a threat.
Some background, though. This bill, this is introduced in the Louisiana legislature by an African-American Democrat. And all the bill is asking is that abortion clinics in Louisiana have the same care standards as general surgical wards in hospitals, which is pretty
modest proposal.
Pretty modest proposal. It's basically saying, I hope the healthcare place that I have has proper healthcare practice.
Yeah. Exactly. Very modest proposal, but that's not good enough for woke Dems. We have a clip with Chuck Schumer. Chucky, here it is.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
There it is. You will pay the price because you have released the whirlwind. Yeah, now, what does that mean? You're going to pay the price. It sounds like you're going to get.
I read it as a threat, and on top of that, it's kind of careless of the minority leader of the Senate to actually say something like that, and especially in these times, because people can go off on just the simplest little thing because they can't handle a tweet or an offensive joke made by someone that may be off color and trigger them.
It's why the Republicans need to maintain control of the United States Senate.
I hope so.
It was so far out of bounds that John Roberts actually came out and said
Which is rare.
Which is rare. He rarely rebukes anybody, but he came out and said what you said was incorrect. And then Schumer had the nerve to double down and say, I didn't threaten you. I was talking about Mitch McConnell, even though all of you listening out here didn't hear him utter Mitch McConnell's name in that statement once.
And he did the stereotypical, like, I'm a New Yorker, we're brash, I'm from Brooklyn, that's the language we use, it gets a little harsh. You know, don't get at me for that. Sorry.
And by the way, he did that. He actually did apologize, kind of, sort of. I'm not really sure it was an apology on the Senate floor.
It was kind of yes and no.
But that was only after Roberts corrected him. Mm-hmm. And we have that clip, and here's the clip.
I'm from Brooklyn. We speak in strong language. I shouldn't have used the words I did, but in no way was I making a threat. I never would do such a thing. And Leader McConnell knows that. And Republicans who are busy manufacturing outrage over these comments know that too.
Amazing. Amazing.
Here's the problem.
He's no shame.
Yeah, no. And the problem is with our political state right now, as between parties and how Americans interact with each other based on politics, is that if the shoe was on the other foot, and there's plenty of examples, if the shoe was on the other foot, if Mitch McConnell said something like that, there would have been pitchforks, there have been riots, there have been marches in the street for Mitch McConnell to resign or to do something else.
Absolutely.
It's insane.
I mean, and he's not going to pay a price, but Schumer should pay the price instead of the Supreme Court, justices, and certainly not Roberts.
And in fairness to Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, the two of them are probably some of the most independent-minded justices on the court in their one term. They've been very willing to work with the other side of the aisle on judicial decisions, whereas the Democrat-appointed or supposed Democrat wing of the Supreme Court rarely ever agrees with the right lane of the court.
And then this all started because Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, didn't they attend like a pro-life rally or an event that was kind of like tied to it? Is that what I think?
I'm not aware of that.
I'm not aware.
Okay.
It could be true.
Because I thought that was something I read because I think it's funny because you see Sotomayor and Ruth Bader Ginsburg go to some more like political active events sometimes.
They're very politically active.
And no one,
they're activist
no one
judges.
Comments on them, on their actions.
Oh, for them it's proper and allowed. Nobody ever calls them on it.
And the electoral carnage continues. Trump rips Jim Acosta of CNN.
Again.
Acosta is keeping the story alive
Must be a
about
day
Russian
that ends in
interference.
Y.
So that's all Acosta talks about is Russia, Russia, Russia. And of course, that's all been adjudicated, but it's not good enough. And this basically just happened. We have a clip on this, and here it is.
Just wanted to follow up on my colleague's question about Russian interference. Can you pledge to the American people that you will not accept any foreign assistance in the upcoming election? And on this idea of a purge in your administration, there was recently the departure of your acting DNI, Joseph McGuire. You replaced him with your ambassador to Germany, Rick Grinnell. Some of your critics have pointed out that Ambassador Grinnell has no intelligence experience. How can you justify to the American people having an acting DNI with no intelligence experience?
Okay, first of all, I want no help from any country, and I haven't been given help from any country. And if you see what CNN, your wonderful network, said, I guess they apologized in a way for, didn't they apologize for the fact that they said certain things that weren't true? Tell me, what was their apology yesterday? What did they say?
Mr. President, I think our record on delivering the truth is a lot better than yours sometimes, if you don't mind me saying.
Let me tell you about your record. Your record is so bad, you ought to be ashamed of
I think it's
yourself.
zero-sum.
I'm not ashamed of anything, and our
You probably have the
organization
worst
is not
record in the
ashamed,
history
sir.
of broadcasting.
That's why they settled with Nick Sandman, right? Because they've got such a great record.
Get you somebody who loves you the way that Jim Acosta loves himself.
And I kind of think, this might be a stretch, but it might be a squirrel moment, but I think Acosta purposely used the word purge because the purging is a very historical term used for Stalinism and how Stalin treated his allies. If you said one bad thing to him, he got rid of you.
It's true. Go ahead, Garrett.
I mean, it's not uncommon for people to fire. Look, now Trump does do it at a clip larger than most people, but you know, Trump has that mandate. He can do whatever he wants. It is his executive branch to manage.
But this has been an ongoing 3.5-year battle between he and Jim Acosta. Trump, I think, has won because even though Jim Acosta, of course, is getting a lot of notoriety, everybody knows he's a liar. I mean, they just know this guy's not a true journalist, just at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Bill Clinton talks about Monica Lewinsky, kind of gives Monica Lewinsky apology. This is brand new. You would thought this would happen in like a couple of decades ago.
Like 1990, maybe?
But this just happened. And he gave an apology, and The View, the show The View in the morning, The View talked about this apology. And first you're going to hear Bill Clinton, a clip of his apology, and you're going to hear The View basically apologizing for Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Unbelievable. And here is the clip.
Things I did to manage my anxieties for years. I feel terrible about the fact that Monica Lewinsky's life was defined by it, unfairly, I think. You know, over the years, I've watched her trying to get a normal life back again.
Sad.
Yeah, that is.
It's
sad
tough,
for Monica.
yeah. But it's also, you know, the other person who it's defined has been Hillary. You know, because people, you know, were still so angry at her. Remember, they were saying, you know, she stayed with her husband, so we're mad at her for that. But you know, nobody came out on top.
It's true.
In this.
There aren't winners in that, for sure. And it's kind of like the glass houses thing. I think the second you say, how could someone do this, until you've walked in their own shoes, I don't think you understand. And I have a totally different opinion of marriage now that I am, like the struggles that you run into and the challenges you reach. And
with all due respect, I think Bill Clinton did come out on top on that one. But aside from that, I have to say this. They're literally apologizing on The View and saying how sad it is, how sad he is, and how awful it is for him. It's unbelievable.
Because he was forced to cheat on his wife, and that's okay.
What if it were Republican?
Oh.
The View? I mean, these are...
I don't think a Republican would have survived the inquisition that would have been caused by that.
There's no... Well, certainly not on The View, they wouldn't have.
No.
I mean, would they have said that? Oh, isn't it sad? I feel so sorry for him and for his wife, and he has anxiety, and that's why he acted out in the White House.
I will
can't
say,
really
though,
listen to Joy Behar anymore.
No. The View's terrible. And I like how
that's our job.
And I like how they throw Meghan McCain on there, like she is the token voice of conservative principles. And I get it. She's probably the only conservative willing to go on The View, but
Must be a nice paycheck.
Yeah, no kidding. To take the abuse.
I'm not sure that issue
was
is so relatable to her, but you know, we won't go there.
Right.
So,
but I will say, hold on. I will say, with respect to what Bill said about Monica, I think Monica was owed that and probably a whole lot more than she got from that. And probably, I will say, it is probably 30 years too late, but.
Oh
you know.
my God, it's ridiculous how late it's been.
Yeah.
And he also said, by the way, he looks and sounds terrible, Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
When you watch his apology and him talking about it, he looks like a man defeated. And, you know, obviously I just think he just looks sick. He looks very sick. And maybe that's why he's doing this, by the way.
I thought they did a lot to put him around on the campaign trail in 2016 when she was running. And when I was looking at him, I was like, man, I don't know how he has this in him. Like, he just looks so depleted, and he's struggling to be out there making public apperances and giving these speeches.
But it's getting really tiring just to have the Clintons back in the news all the time.
All the time.
Because now Hulu has a show called Hillary on Hulu about, like, about her time after the race, and probably Bill's involved in it too. But it's like, really?
She wants to be the Veep. She wants to be the Veep candidate.
All
She's
this for
obviously
a failed
getting
presidential candidate. I mean, I don't remember George Bush getting quite the level of attention that the Clintons are getting.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was actually president.
For
8 years.
I think she wants to be the vice presidential candidate. That's why she's upping her profile, and maybe that's even why he actually apologized for this. But I kind of doubt it.
Biden,
He's all about himself.
Biden, Clinton, that's a bad ticket.
It's true.
I think President Obama's sitting back somewhere in one of his houses and going like, "Oh my god."
So look, next up, we're going to talk about school choice. School choice, okay? So yours truly, I've never done this before in the podcast ever.
No,
I've never talked about my own bill. I've never talked about my own debate on the House floor of the Maryland House of Delegates because I just haven't, because there's so many other national news items that are so, in my opinion, important. But I thought this was relevant and I thought this was newsworthy because I offered an amendment on the floor of the House of Delegates in the state of Maryland to allow students to have a choice of where they go to school if they are in a school that has a 1-star rating. So the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is basically a federal law, Every Student Succeeds Act, requires the states to rate schools between 1 star and 5 stars. Maryland, 1 star means failed, 5 means it's a great school. So if you have a 1-star school and it's been that way for years and years and years, I think you should be notified that your school has failed, where your kid's going, and you should have an opportunity to send your kid to either a private, public, or charter school of your choice. That was what the amendment was on the House floor of the Maryland House of Delegates. I offered that amendment, and you have to listen to this clip carefully because once I offered the amendment, you wouldn't believe what actually one of the delegates compared school choice to, and here is the clip.
This is a modest proposal because there was, as I said earlier, a time when folks on the other side of the aisle actually agreed that this kind of thing makes sense. We say we want to give that we want to give people a choice in Section 8 housing of where they live, the whole source of income bill, but we don't want to give them a choice of where they go to school. Isn't that special? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Montgomery.
Maker of the amendment. Question for you.
Sure.
As a parent, and if my child is going to a low-performing school, with this amendment, they would be able to go to a high-performing school of my choice?
So, as the amendment says, that the school, which is an alternative school, would have to be approved by MSDE. So MSDE is still in charge. And so are you as a parent. So your child, to be clear, what the amendment does is say if your child is in a school with a 1-star rating, just 1 star, which means it is a failed school by federal standards, then you as a parent have the opportunity, first of all, to be notified that that's the case, and secondly, to send your child to an alternative school that is approved by MSDE. A super modest proposal.
As a parent, then, should I call this a busing bill?
As a parent, you should call this a choice bill.
I think this is a busing bill, and I thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you. I find that offensive. I find that offensive because the children who are in the failed schools are predominantly African American children, half the failed schools in the city of Baltimore. I find that offensive because I went to one of those schools.
And I find it offensive for you to say it's not a busing bill.
I have the floor. It's ridiculous. It is. It is so insulting. It is so incredibly insulting that I'm offering an amendment to give people a choice to go to a school so they can get up and out. Madam Speaker, I'm going to finish with this. You and I went to the same high school, public high school. That school is one of the failing schools.
You went to Lansdowne High?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Any further debate?
So as you heard the Speaker of the House in the Maryland House of Delegates. I told her at the end, oh, by the way, we went to the same high school. She didn't know this. And
she didn't believe you if you see the video.
She didn't believe me at all. And so we went to the same high school. That high school was an awful school when I went there, and it's considered a failing school in Maryland today. And she knows that. She knows that because I'm sure when she went there, she had a lot of issues as well. And so I brought that up. And interestingly enough, of course, the folks listening to the podcast don't know this because they can't see the video, but you can see the video on Mark and the Millennials, or also you can see it on my own homepage, my landing page, Mark Fisher on YouTube. But the bottom line is this. The folks the folks who don't want school choice, interestingly enough, are African Americans. And the lady who got up and so called it a busing bill is African American. So here she is denying school choice to the very people we're trying to help.
It's kind of crazy because busing was a federal program where there was no choice involved, and it was an attempt to desegregate schools and have kids from white communities and black communities go to schools farther away from where they lived, and they had no choice. And it was very controversial, and there was Supreme Court cases that happened, and this happened in the late 60s and so on.
But ultimately, it was the bill
70s.
that ended school segregation and
Yes.
forced implementation. And believe it or not, I'm old enough to remember that not even 6 months ago, Kamala Harris came out on a debate stage and got all up in arms with Joe Biden for Joe Biden's opposition to busing.
Correct.
Because the whole busing program was very popular in the African American community because it signaled the end of a decade of segregation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some parts of the African American community didn't like it. But I think many African Americans like it. It was controversial. I think it's safe to say
all
this.
around.
But by the way, the amendment that I offered was not a busing amendment.
Not even
it was a
close.
school choice amendment. I think we should stay on target for that.
yeah.
Because school choice, look, here's the thing. It's all we hear about is the woke liberals and the woke progressives saying that you have to be stuck in a really failing school until they fix that school. And they think money fixes the school. But money hasn't fixed the schools in Baltimore City for decades.
And they're going to raise the taxes to pay for this Kerwin Commission bill, which is a big study that was over a year or two or however long, where they're saying we need to spend X billions of dollars. We don't know how to
32 billion.
32 billion.
32
okay,
billion.
wow. That's more GDPs than most countries in the world. That's
32
gonna be
billion over 10 years.
But here's the thing, as a Republican, as a conservative, is a better way of putting it, as a conservative, this is the civil rights issue of our time. The civil rights issue of our time is that children who are stuck in failed schools should be given, the money should follow the children and the parents that are paid in those failed public schools so they can go anywhere they want to, anywhere they can get into, anywhere that's better than where they are now.
And I think it was prudent to mention what busing was, because some people forgot what whole program was. But the whole point of your bill, that
she said that to kill the amendment,
exactly.
Which of course, by the way, everybody out there in podcast land, they killed the amendment naturally because liberals hate school choice because they don't want to give you choices.
And your amendment to that bill was well founded, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, because honestly, if you, as a parent, does have a right to know that if a school's failing, they should afford their child the best chance within their means to actually get to a better school. And nothing says that a child at a failing school has to go to a different school. It's up to the parent and the child saying,
it's still a choice.
Yeah, it's still a choice. I have a choice to say I want to go to a charter school, private school, or another public school that's near where I currently reside.
The amendment also does one other thing that we haven't talked about, and the first half of the amendment is dictated to just letting parents know that their kids go to a failing school in the first place.
Because they don't even know.
Which Maryland doesn't take the courtesy of letting their children know, because they want people to be in the dark about what's really going on.
And the failing schools can just operate as a failing school, and then the teachers don't have to improve themselves or actually,
Here's a better way of putting it. If it's a failed school and it's been a failed school for a long time, the school needs to be closed.
It's pervasive.
It needs to be closed.
Yep.
Because it's failed. It's not working. And but naturally, the liberals in Maryland, actually they're progressives, they don't want to notify parents. They don't want transparency, because if there's transparency, then of course, obviously, people are going to come forward and say, wait a minute, I actually want other options. They don't want that. They want to lock these poor kids in these terrible options.
I think the teacher unions are involved in this too, because
You
if
think?
Where do you think the Brinks truck with $32 billion is going? Right to the teachers union. But also, the idea that liberals should be against school choice is weird to me, because if you look at a lot of the Nordic countries and you look at Canada, where a lot of these, liberal to liberal social Democrats are on the scale, these are all countries with school choice. Canada has provincial school choice. So Canada has 13 provinces, which is the equivalent to 10 states. You can go to any school in that province that you want. They do not care. Same within, Finland and those 3 countries down there, Denmark, Netherlands, the whole lot of them. You can go to any school that you want.
Yeah, I just find it hypocritical for the Democrats to not be for that amendment in general, because they're usually all about choice, do what you want, do what you feel, but now they're just restricting actually chance of a better education when it's a person's choice saying, I want to take use of this program, I want to go here.
It's all about centralizing education underneath the state.
All legislative session in Maryland, the Democrats have their buzzword this session is the word equity. So I use that word back at them because they want education equity. And the idea that the kid that's in this really great school in a really rich area shouldn't have a better education than the kid that's in a poor area. Well, that's exactly what the amendment solves, except that it empowers the parents with the money instead of the teachers union. And so I use the word equity back at them. And it's a civil rights issue. I stand by that. So any final thoughts on that, guys? Millennials?
You summed it up.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So a little self-serving this time, I know, but this is important enough that
it's
we
a
have to talk about it.
It's a national issue. I mean, Florida's biggest bill this year with the new Ron DeSantis coalition and the legislature there in Florida is they passed the most sweeping school choice bill in the United States.
They're a leader in the country.
Leader, and their outcome has been exceptional.
And I think how Maryland
And who
Democrats-
supports it? Who supports it?
Jeb Bush, Ron
Black
DeSantis,
mothers. Black mothers
in
overwhelmingly
Broward
want
County,
school choice.
I don't know
Miami-Dade.
how the Maryland Democrats are letting Florida lead the way on this. Usually they lead the way.
And in
as they
Baltimore, just like in Tallahassee and Jacksonville, Florida, in Baltimore, black mothers, if they even knew this was available, they would support it too. But the Democrats don't even want to tell them that this is a possibility, which of course, naturally, how can you? Because you're going to lose all your power.
Yep, exactly.
So, Saturday Night Live, next up. Saturday Night Live talks about the coronavirus.
Dun, dun, dun.
And they have a coronavirus open.
Panic.
And Bernie Sanders, played by Larry David. You'll hear him in this, and you'll also hear Amy Klobuchar. Who plays Amy Klobuchar?
Oh, I know. She was in the Smart Park
And
Boston
Colin
accent
Jost.
one.
Colin Jost also plays in it, and he plays
Buttigieg?
Buttigieg. So those three people are on the SNL Coronavirus Open. We just have a clip on this. Funny stuff. Here it is.
No Purell. I got a bottle of that junk, and on the label, it says it kills 99.99% of germs. What happens to the top 0.01%?
That's good writing. That's good.
Why are we protecting them? I say enough with the potions. Just use good old-fashioned bar soap and scalding hot water. Now, I might get in trouble for saying this, but you know who was great at washing his hands? Joseph Stalin.
Killing millions and millions of people.
Just saying.
Look, I'm not afraid of a little cough. I announced my campaign in a snowstorm. I mean, that was insane. A snowstorm. Who would do that? I'm in it to win it, baby. I don't know when to quit. And that might be a problem.
Can I just mention, I'm the only candidate up here who's not going to lose.
To Trump?
Oh, no, to the coronavirus. So, you're all in very high-risk demographics.
So that was the SNL Coronavirus Open. And of course, that was Pete Buttigieg, played by Colin Jost, basically saying all the Democrats are going to die, the ones who are running, because they're all so old. So it's pretty funny stuff. Do you guys still watch SNL, or is that like not millennial enough?
I catch it when I have time, but I don't stay up and watch it right then and there. I usually just catch it on Hulu like a day or two after.
Too busy watching South Park or something like that? Or?
No, too busy going out and enjoying the nightlife in the town.
Usually the real fun skits will make their way on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and I'll catch them there, because why do I need to watch a whole show when the best parts get with ads when the best parts get shipped right to my phone?
Mm-hmm.
So next up, we have the dumbest bill in America. We have the dumbest bill in America, and we have our assistant producer, Chris Hopkins, here, who has chosen the... Do we have music, or do we just have a movie clip, or what? Let's hear it.
So wait a minute. What you're saying
old,
is
reliable.
that you want us to put water on the crops.
Yes.
Water. Like out the toilet?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be out of the toilet, but yeah, that's the idea. But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got
It has
electrolytes.
Great lobbying effort.
So that's the dumbest bill in America, because Brondo's got what plants crave. Was that the whole clip, by the way? Oh, okay. Sounded like, I don't know, sounded short, maybe because we're so used to it. So, next up, we have the dumbest bill in America, and it's Senate Bill 873, which is introduced by California State Senator Hannah Beth Jackson. I know, California is the gift that keeps giving for basically the dumbest bill in America. So State Senator Hannah Beth Jackson prohibits stores from pricing differences between identical toys and price fixing, and you can't have any kind of price fixing or differences, if you will, on any item, whether it's a toy or clothing or anything. So here's an example. If you have two teddy bears, the teddy bears are being made by the same manufacturer, one is pink and one is blue, and they're the same size, she's prohibiting you as a manufacturer or as a store from charging more for one than the other. And so she goes on and on and on in her bill about different kinds of services that they offer, that different companies offer, and how they can't, of course, discriminate either. So in other words, price discrimination is prohibited. We actually have State Senator Hannah Beth Jackson. We have a clip from her, and she's talking about this bill, and you have to listen to it. And here it is.
You know, women in California earn an estimated 88 cents for every dollar a man makes. Of course, we know for women of color, it is even less. But when you look at that 88-cent number, we know that the pay gap adds to more than $7,000 per year, even at those highest levels. And so while women earn less on average than our male counterparts, we also pay more for virtually the same goods. And this gender-based price discrimination results in women paying thousands of dollars more over the course of our lives. That is wrong. That pink teddy bear is exactly the same as that blue teddy bear. But this one costs $2.50 more.
Oh, only $2?
No
I thought we were talking about like a $20 difference.
That's the pink one. And it's likely that the little girl is going to want that pink one. It's $1 here, $1 there, $2.50 here, that adds up to real money. And unless there is a justifiable reason, women should not pay more for virtually the same products. And gender is not a justifiable reason. That's why I've introduced SB 873 to ban the practice of charging different prices for goods solely on the basis of gender.
So woke, she's so woke. Here's her bill. It says, the following business establishments shall clearly and conspicuously disclose to the customer in writing the pricing for each standard service provided. Tailors or businesses providing aftermarket clothing alterations, barbers or hair salons, dry cleaners and laundries providing services to individuals. The price list shall be posted in an area conspicuous to customers, and the posted price list shall be in no less than a 14-point bold-faced type and clearly and completely display the pricing for every standard service offered by the business. And she just goes on and on and on. And by the way, a business establishment that fails to correct a violation of this bill within 30 days of receiving written notice of the violation is liable for a civil penalty of $1,000. Go ahead, Millennials.
So does this mean if I get a haircut at a salon instead of my usual $20 haircut because I have a 3 up top and no hair, that I now have to pay $50? Is this what we're getting at here?
She's basically
this is what
saying
it sounds like.
You can't. Basically, no one out there can charge different prices between men and women for the same service or for the same kind of product.
So that teddy bear example is actually interesting because you're going based on color. What if that pink color was
pink dye is a little bit more expensive,
or was it a limited edition where they only made a certain amount of numbers? So of course they're going to increase the price.
Well, I don't know. How about supply and demand?
I was going to say, or a little
maybe
more
boys want more teddy bears than their teddy bears. And those teddy bears are basically, things that the guys want, little kids want more than the girls, so therefore it's supply and demand.
Yeah, it's like almost getting like your little Daisy Rider BB gun. They have more of the traditional wood color stocks, and then they have the pink color guns that maybe cost a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how about all the other services? You talked about haircuts.
Or tailoring. Because honestly, I would think like tailoring of a men's suit and a woman's business suit would almost be the same price, but maybe tailoring a dress where there's more fabric you have to alter and change around, that might cost a little more because it takes more time.
What? Say that again? What? Oh, I want to hear this again.
Basically, tailoring suits. So if your men's suit and a woman's business suit will be almost the same price, right?
Yeah.
Or it should be the same price. But usually if there's more fabric that needs to be altered, like for like a wedding dress, it may cost more.
And it might be more expensive fabric that you're really concerned that you're going to ruin. And it might, so it takes more time.
Yes.
But you have to justify that. You have to
that's insane.
In bold print on your storefront.
No.
I mean, basically your entire window front would be covered with,
That's why I don't agree with the bill. It makes no sense. It puts more strain on a business owner.
I don't know how you determine it because a lot of these things, people don't just take prices and just set them randomly. There's a rhyme and a reason for it. Like you're talking about tailors, and it basically, like you said, it has to do with this type of garment, the material, how much you're getting done on it.
Like the building materials, like how much it goes into it. Like what's the cost of the fabric? How much did it take to actually order it? And
exactly.
How much does it make?
And like this teddy bear, like you're saying, there's so many different factors that go into it. And maybe like Mark said, that the girls just want
supply
that teddy bear a lot more.
And it's also price fixing. Price fixing is stupid.
Price controls are terrible.
That's what you do in communism. That's what you do in socialism.
Yep.
So
there it is, yeah.
Well, thank you for joining Mark and Millennials. That's it for Mark and the Millennials. This is Mark Fisher. Thank you to Ryan the Squirrel Brady and Garrick Ross. Andrew the Fujiniti is still out. Thank you to yeah, you do need a name.
I was very squirrely today.
Yes, you were squirrely. And thank you to Adam Couture, our producer, and Chris Hopkins, our assistant producer. Please join us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and our website. See you next time.